The Black Lives Matter takeover, the Democratic Party is destroying the political left. You heard that right. In this video, we're going to look at how the left-wing endorsement of Black Lives Matter actually represents nothing less than the triumph of a tribalism that's bringing to an end left-wing liberalism as we've known it. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. If this is your first time here in this channel, I post 2 videos a day analyzing current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends so that you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where we together have this wonderful privilege of celebrating the collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. And if you allow me, let me tease you just a little bit here. I'm excited to let you know that we have a major announcement coming next week, so you're not going to want to miss it. We have some huge changes that are coming to Turley Talks that you're going to love, so stay tuned, but I'm going to leave you with that. Let's start with our video chat question of the day. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter has indeed taken over the Democratic Party? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Are we looking at a Black Lives Matter party, as Tucker Carlson has been arguing of late, for the Democrats? Let us know what you think, because in this video, I'm going to make the argument that if that's true, then we are indeed witnessing the death of the political left in our nation as we've known it. They just don't know it. But first, Father's Day is here, and you can now let Dad put floodlights anywhere he wants around the home or office without spending a fortune. The brand new ultra bright wireless floodlight makes it incredibly easy to light up all the dark spots in your yard. You can install it anywhere because it's wireless, and you never need to worry about buying batteries because it's solar powered with a high powered battery storage pack. It's equipped with motion detectors, and it becomes an entertainment light for the patio and the barbecue with a click of a button. It's really awesome. And best of all, if you click on that link below right now, you'll get over 52% off as well as free shipping. So what could be better? Don't wait. Click on that link below and get Dad the perfect gift for this Father's Day. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. What I want to do today is I want us to put our thinking caps on. I want to help us all make better sense of what's going on here in our nation with all this mass race riots, as well as the seeming triumph of Black Lives Matter as representing the new left in our nation. I want to make the argument that this is a fundamentally mistaken interpretation of what's going on here. Let's start with the latest endorsement of Black Lives Matter by the Communist Party USA, all right? If you go to their website, you'll see article after article praising BLM and seeing it as a legitimate leftist uprising against a racist capitalist system. The problem here is that these wannabe Marxists don't seem to get is that BLM, Black Lives Matter, is, if we think it through, it is not a leftist group. Certainly not in the sense that Marx understood the left. It's crucial for us to remember that the political left is rooted in a philosophical commitment known as modernity. Now, if you're a regular to this channel, this is kind of old hat, but just to bring everyone up to speed, simply put, modernity was an 18th century philosophy that involved the enthronement of scientific rationalism as the one true way of understanding the world and understanding reality. So modernity considers itself a one-size-fits-all form of knowledge for all peoples, all times, all places. And as a result, proponents of modernity believed that pre-modern, tribal, ancestral beliefs and practices had ceded their authority to forms of truth and reasoning that were now derived from autonomous human reason, right? No more superstition or religion. So the important point here is that in contrast to the conservative vision of life, which sees a radical continuity in history, we've talked about this before, conservatives believe that there are certain beliefs, institutions, and practices of our past that are indispensable to our human flourishing in the present and the future. And so conservatives see this seamless continuity between past, present, and future. What makes a liberal, in the modern sense, a liberal, is the belief in a radical disruption in time, right? There's a radical discontinuity, and that's what you have to get here, where everything prior to the Great Awakening, whatever it is, the 18th century, Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, 19th century Marxism, the neo-Marxist social justice, whatever it is, right? Liberals see everything prior to the Great Awakening as inherently evil and fundamentally unjust and whatever, or oppressive, racist, bigoted, you got it, right, sexist. This is the fundamental difference between the liberal and the conservative. The conservative sees this radical continuity between past, present, and future, whereas the liberal sees a fundamental rupture, disruption in history, where anything prior to the Great Awakening, which is the rupture, is now deemed evil and oppressive, and therefore it has to be replaced with something wholly new. Again, that's key if you want to understand what's going on here today. Leftists are all about destroying the old and bringing in something wholly new. That's precisely what Soviet Marxism was all about. Marxists believed that it's incumbent on all modern-minded people to destroy power hierarchies of the old world, the pre-modern world, the monarchical world, and replace them with a social system comprised of a new humanity liberated from the inequalities of the past. So this is how the political left became associated with the commitment to ushering in what Aldous Huxley called a brave new world, right? But what we've got to understand here is that to the shock and the horror of leftists and their grand schemes of a liberal utopia, scholars have noticed, at least since 1979, that the modernist notion of one-size-fits-all political and economic system for all peoples, times, and places, that's basically collapsed philosophically in the hearts and minds of Western populations. More and more people are characterized by a postmodern conception of the world, which valued diversity and pluralism and multiculturalism. And fascinatingly, with the advent of postmodernism, the tribal and the ethnic once again became exotic. It was suddenly cool to go back to the primeval, right? The authentic, the tribal. And that meant, too, that the scientific and the rational became viewed as increasingly sterile and stifling. And so, I mean, this is why you have the New Age movement today and the yoga craze and the like. I'm just saying that the old is cool in postmodernism, okay? In modernity, the old is backwards and superstitious and not worth remembering. You need something new, modern. Now, in this shift from modernity to postmodernity, we're seeing the old political economic systems that were rooted in modernity, like the EU and the Soviet Union, basically unravel. They're falling apart because their modernist foundation is dead, and so they're beginning to break up. So this is what we celebrate on our channel each and every day, right? More and more populations are rejecting liberalism and turning towards nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. But they're also in this process turning back to tribalism, right? To secession, to balkanization, to social fission. It may surprise you to know that since 1991, in the fall of the Soviet Union, over 35 nations have been added to the world map. I mean, the world is breaking up into pieces rather than, being central after a century of centralized globalism. Now, if we understand that, I think we can now understand why the rise of Black Lives Matter and their takeover of the Democratic Party means what? It means the end of the political left as we've known it. And that's because this backlash against modernity and its conception of the political left, which represents, of course, a disruption in history. This backlash against that is actually morphing into two versions of the political right. You got to get that. More specifically, we're seeing two kinds of right-wing nationalisms coming out of this backlash against modernity. And again, if you've been with this channel, you're familiar with this distinction because we've talked about it on several occasions. We're seeing the rise of what's called civic nationalism. And we're also seeing the rise of what's called ethno-nationalism, okay? So you've got civic nationalism, you've got ethno-nationalism. So civic nationalist movements are bottom line united in that they are all seeking to restore their respective national sovereignties by reaffirming border security, economic nationalism, right? This is what we saw in the back-to-back victories of Brexit and Donald Trump, right? What we're seeing happening in Western Europe, particularly today. However, while civic nationalists defend the sovereignty of the nation state, which is generally multi-ethnic, 90% of nation states are multi-ethnic, ethno-nationalism is characterized by a turn towards a homogenous cultural makeup where populations are increasingly balkanizing as they're turning to their own ethnic identities and kin and race-based loyalties in a postmodern social order. Now, here in the States, The media's focus on the ethno-nationalists has been entirely fixated on white nationalism, the so-called alt-right, represented by figures like Richard Spencer and the like. But this is incredibly myopic on their part. If you remember the whole Drew Brees fiasco, that was every bit as exemplative of this ethno-nationalist dynamic, right? I mean, Brees originally defended civic nationalism and its respect for symbols such as the flag in his original comment. The Black Lives Matter backlash he faced rejected that nationalism in favor, and this is absolutely key, the BLM backlash rejected that nationalism, not in favor of a brave new world of leftism, not in favor of something new, but rather in favor of something actually primitive and primeval. They appeal to the rhetoric of tribalism and ethno-nationalism. So from this vantage point, the Black Lives Matter movement, BLM, is every bit as alt-right as Richard Spencer says. They're mutually committed to the defense of their respective ethnic identities that they both believe to be under assault. And while it's true that BLM is leftist insofar as its proponents want to destroy the prevailing social political order, well, that's certainly the case. Unlike the Marxists of old, BLM activists have no intention of replacing the current order with something wholly new, something modern, such as a global utopia for the new Soviet man or anything like that. Instead, BLM wants to replace the current order with a pre-modern, primitive order of tribalism and ethnocentricity. They want to exchange the prevailing order not with a progressive one, but with a primeval one. There's nothing new or modern about what they're proposing. So what this means is that progressives like Nancy Pelosi and Chris Cuomo, they are all going to soon learn that no amount of racial repentance or self-loathing or contrite kneeling on their part will appease tribalist sentiments. Chris and Nancy are just simply the wrong color. And as such, they represent an ethnocultural tradition that is and always will be an existential threat to minorities as far as BLM activists are concerned. And we're already seeing this play itself out, aren't we? Indeed, we need to look no further for this unraveling to the very place where cultural Marxism first flourished, which is the college campus. Racial segregation is now a widespread phenomenon in our universities, such as black-only dorms, black-only graduation ceremonies. In a recent study, 42% of 173 schools surveyed offered segregated residences, 46% offered segregated orientation programs, and 72% hosted segregated graduation ceremonies. So make no mistake here, gang, with the death of modernity, Americans have a choice. We can either embrace a unifying vision of civic nationalism as defended and championed by President Trump, or we can choose to ultimately balkanize along ethnic and tribal loyalty. It's either civic nationalism or ethno-nationalism. These are our only two options. But either way, make no mistake, the political left is dead. They just don't know it. Now, before you go, you'll definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the backlash against the Antifa-led radicals. Bikers for Trump are mobilizing to take back Seattle's autonomous zone. All the while, armed citizens are guarding our nation's monuments. It's going to absolutely make your day. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.